How was your day? Maybe it was one of those days you just had to keep going. Something inside was ending, and the world wouldn't let you stop. There's a story about exactly that. A family that has to keep going while their mother is dying. It's called As I Lay Dying. William Faulkner wrote it in 1930. The mother's name is Addie Bundren. This is exactly that story. The family that has to do the impossible while everything is breaking. So lie back. Get warm. The wagon is still in the yard. You don't have to follow every word. Maybe today felt like you were keeping a promise nobody else remembered. The kind you didn't choose, exactly, but couldn't put down either. Things you do because you love someone, even when love asks too much. This story is about a family that did exactly that. They promised to bury their mother in the town she came from. Then everything in the world tried to stop them. They went anyway. Every week, one book. No pressure. Just the story and a quiet place to land. Tonight Faulkner, other nights, other writers. But always this same low light, this same unhurried voice. Mississippi, in the deep summer of the 1920s. A small farm sits on a hill above the river country, pine woods on every side, cotton fields below. The Bundren place, quiet worn, holding on. Inside the upstairs bedroom, a woman is dying. Slowly, the way some people die, over weeks, with everyone watching and unable to do the things she most wants done. Her name is Addie Bundren. Outside her window, just below the sill, her oldest son is sawing pine boards. He is building her coffin. He wants her to see how good the work is. He wants her to know. Here's where it gets strange. She is not afraid. She is not even sad exactly. She is listening to her son's saw, and she is making a promise, come, do that no one, but she remembers. Years before, she made her husband Aunt swear he would bury her in Jefferson, the town she came from. 40 miles away, across rivers and bad roads, he swore. She has been waiting for that promise. Stay with this, it matters later. The promise is the engine of everything. Once she dies, this family will load her body into a wagon and try to keep their word, no matter what stops them. There are 7 of them. Aunt's the husband, with his stoop and his gap-toothed mouth. Cash, the carpenter. Darrell, who sees too much. Jewel, who loves a horse. Dewey Dell, and little Vardaman. Each of them carries something the others don't fully know. A secret. A horse bought in the dark. A child no one has been told about. A mind beginning to crack at its quiet edges. The youngest, Vardaman, is 8. He doesn't have words for what is happening to his mother. So he goes down to the slough and brings home the largest fish he has ever caught. We'll stay with this one tonight. There's more in Faulkner's world, but tonight we sit with this one. If you drift off somewhere in it, the book will still be here tomorrow. Cash saws, board after board, in his slow, steady rhythm. Inside, his mother counts each stroke. The work outside her window is a kind of prayer, the only one he knows how to make. Aunt sends Darrell and Jewel away on a hauling job, even now. $3 or $3. The 2 boys hitch up the team and start down the road. Their mother will die before they return. Cora Tull, the neighbor woman, comes up the path with her daughters and her hymn. Cakes, the way country women come when a death is near. She sits by the bed and she sings. Vernon Tull, her husband, helps aunts on the porch. 2 old farmers, hats in hand, talking around the dying. Talking about anything else. The weather, the river coming up, the bridges. Notice how the river is already in the conversation. They don't know yet what it will do to them. But the rain has been falling for days. Somewhere upstream, the water is already rising. Inside, Dewey Dell stands by the bed and fans her mother's face. She is 17. She is also pregnant and no one knows. Her mother knows. Her mother is dying without telling. This is the part most people miss. So much of this novel is people not saying things. The ones who know watching the ones who don't. Whole conversations happening in glances above a deathbed. Dr. Peabody finally arrives. 70 years old, 300 pounds. Hauled up the hill on a rope behind a mule because the road is too steep for his buggy. Too late, of course. Outside, the light is failing. Cash lights the lantern on the post and keeps working. Pine shavings curl around his boots. He planes each board until the joins are clean. He is making something good. Inside, Addie raises herself on one elbow. She looks for Cash through the window. She sees him bending to his work in the lantern light. She watches a long moment, then she lies back. She does not call out. She does not say goodbye. She has already said it, in her own way years ago. What she wants now is to be carried home, the way she swore she would be. Vardaman comes into the room. He looks at his mother. Then he looks at the fish he caught and laid on the porch. In his 8-year-old mind, something joins the two of them together. Outside, Cash's saw stops. He stands up. He looks at the coffin. Then he looks up at the lit window. He cannot say what he feels. He does not need to. The coffin says it. Inside, Addie Bundren takes one slow breath, and then another. Her eyes close. Her hand stops. The lamp keeps burning. The saw outside is silent. The road is waiting. Tomorrow the wagon will start. Let's spend a little time with each of them. The husband first. Aunts Bundren. Lean and stooped, pale watery eyes. A mouth that has lost most of its teeth and is waiting for a reason to replace them. Ants has a theory about himself. He says if he ever sweats, he'll die. So he doesn't work, not really. He sits. He watches other people work. He receives the help neighbors bring. This sounds like laziness. It is laziness. But Faulkner does something cruel and clever. He lets you see Ants from the inside too. And from the inside, Ants believes everything he says about himself. He believes the road is bad luck for him. He believes God put hills in the way to test him. He believes. And this is the small, terrible thing. That his suffering has earned him something. What he wants, what he has wanted for years, is a new set of teeth. He has been saving for them. And his wife dying, and the trip to town to bury her, gives him a reason to go and get them. Hold that fact for a moment. It will mean more later. The man whose wife is dying upstairs is also, somewhere quietly inside himself, looking forward to the trip into town. The book does not flinch at this. But Ants is not a villain. He is something quieter and harder to name. A man who has needed a story about his suffering for so long that he has become the story. Even his grief comes out in lines he has rehearsed. Now picture his oldest son, Cash, 30 years old, stocky, sandy-haired, the carpenter. The one whose hands have built half the things on this farm. The porch railing, the kitchen table, the stair to the loft. Cash does not say much, he works. He is making the coffin on the bevel, a slanted joint, harder to cut, stronger to hold. He has 13 separate reasons why this is the right way. He explains them carefully, to himself. This is one of the most quietly moving things in the book. A man who cannot say I love you to his dying mother, building her the most carefully made box she has ever owned. The work is the saying. There is a chapter in the book that is just Cash's list. 13 reasons. Numbered, plain. It makes a neater job, he writes. Animal magnetism. He is shy. He is precise. The reasons are the closest he gets to grief. When the coffin is finished, Cash will help carry it, and load it, and tie it down. He will ride beside it on the wagon for hundreds of slow miles. He will not complain when the ride breaks his leg. When his leg is broken, he will keep riding. When the leg goes wrong, his family will pour cement over it. He will not complain about that either. He will say only very quietly that it itches. He is the moral spine of the book. Quiet, stubborn, kind. The kind of person whose love is in what he builds, not what he says. The kind no one notices is keeping everything together until he stops. Hear that, the saw outside has started again. Cash, the next morning. The coffin lid laid carefully. Even after his mother is gone, he is still finishing the work. Some people grieve by sitting still. He grieves by working. Inside the house, Vardaman has taken the auger and bored 2 holes through the coffin lid. He thought his mother needed air. The holes go through her face. The family discovers them later. They do not say much. Cora Toll, the neighbor, sings hymns over the body. Cora is sure she knows everything God thinks. She is sure she knows who is saved and who is lost. She is also almost always wrong. Faulkner gives Cora her own chapters too. From inside her head, she is righteous. From outside, she is something else. The book lets you hold both at once. Nobody is only one thing in this novel. Nobody. That is the trick of the book. 15 people speak. Each one is right inside their own head. Each one is wrong from someone else's. And the truth, if there is one, lives somewhere between all of them. If you drift off here, that's fine. The wagon hasn't left yet. The mules are still in their harness in the yard. Nothing is being missed. The story keeps going on its own for a while. Now meet Darrell, 28, tall and thin, light brown hair, pale gray blue eyes that look slightly past you, the second son, the smartest one in the family, the one nobody quite trusts. Darrell narrates more chapters than anyone else. He sees scenes he could not have witnessed. He knows what other people are thinking. He describes his mother's death from inside the wagon, miles away. He just knows. This sounds like a writer's trick. It is also slowly a sign of something. Darrell sees too much. Darrell sees what nobody is supposed to see. Darrell sees Dewey Dell's secret. Darrell sees what Jewel won't say. He laughs sometimes, not at funny things, at things that ought to make a person cry. By the end of the book, his family will decide his laughter is too dangerous to leave alone in the world. There is a question the book never quite answers. Is Darrell mad? Or has he simply been seeing the world too clearly for too long? Either way, the people who love him will pay for being near him. His brother Jewel is the third son, 19. Lean, sun-browned, hard pale blue eyes that do not blink much. He does not speak unless he has to. He loves a horse more than he loves anyone in his family. His mother loved him too, more than the others. Maybe more than was fair. Addie has secrets of her own about Jewel. Secrets that explain why her bond with him is different. The book waits to tell you. For now, this is what you need to know. Jewel saved up and bought a wild pinto horse from a neighbor's herd. He paid for it by clearing fields at night alone after the family slept. Months of it, without telling anyone. Picture that. Months of nights, a boy chopping at stumps in the dark, the lantern on a fence post, his back, his arms, his breath, nobody seeing. And then, one morning, a horse in the yard. When the family found out, Ance was furious. Darrell laughed. Cash said nothing. Their mother, quietly, secretly, was proud. The horse is the only thing in the world Jewel chose entirely for himself. Jewel barely speaks in the book. He has only one chapter from inside his head. In it, he wishes everyone else would go away. He wishes it could be just him and his mother on a high cliff, alone. That fierce, Narrow love is what makes him pull the coffin out of a burning barn later. It is also what makes him willing to give up the only thing he ever bought for himself when the family needs new mules. That trade, his horse for the mules they need to keep going, is one of the saddest things in the book. Ance arranges it without asking. Jewel watches his horse walk away. He says nothing. He was right not to trust his father with that horse. He is right not to trust his father with most things. But he is also a boy, and he wants his mother carried home. So he gives the horse up. Now Dewey Dell, the only daughter, 17, a thick chestnut braid down her back, freckles across her nose, a faded blue cotton dress. She works the fields as hard as her brothers and is paid less attention. She has a secret. A boy in the cotton field. A summer afternoon she did not stop. She is pregnant. She has told no one. She does not know how to undo what has happened, and she is going to town. This is the part most people miss the first time. The whole journey, the wagon, the river, the fire, also lets her get to a town with a drugstore. She has $10 from the boy. She has a plan. Her mother knew. Her mother died without saying anything to anyone. That kindness, that withholding, is one of the few real ones Addie gives. Mother to daughter, secret to secret, the unspoken thing held safe. But Darl knows too, without being told. He looks at her sometimes and she feels her secret naked in the air between them. He never says it aloud. He doesn't have to. She knows that he knows. That is one of the quietest cruelties in the book. To be known without consent. To be seen all the way through by someone who never asked your permission to look. Dewey Dell will not forgive Darl for that. Last, the youngest, Vardaman, 8 years old, skinny, sun-browned with scraped knees. A shaggy, unevenly cut head of light brown hair, pale brown eyes that do not blink often. A boy who has not yet learned how to feel. He has a chapter that is 1 sentence long. My mother is a fish. That is the whole chapter. That is also in his 8-year-old mind. The only way to make sense of what has just happened. The fish was alive, then he caught it. Then it was dead. His mother was alive. Then she was dying. Then she was dead. 2 things stopped being. In his head, somehow, they become the same thing. This is what grief does to a child. It makes a sentence that does not make sense, and then he holds on to that sentence for the whole long ride to town. My mother is a fish. The strangest, truest line in the book. 7 Bundrens. 1 mother, 1 coffin. 1 promise. The neighbors arrive to wash the body. Cora's hymns rise quietly through the porch boards. Outside, Cash finishes the lid. Tomorrow the wagon starts. For now, quiet, morning. Gray light on the porch boards. The lamp inside has burned all night. Cash is still out in the yard, finishing the coffin lid. The saw stops. He stands. He carries the lid to the door. Inside, the women have washed the body and dressed her in her wedding gown. They have laid her in the coffin reversed, head to foot, so the gown hangs right. Country custom, country love. Cash sets the lid in place. He nails it down with care. Each nail is set straight, each hammer stroke flat and even. He does not look at his father. He does not look at his sister. He just works. Out on the road, 2 figures appear in the dust. Darl and Jewel, returning from the hauling job. They knew before they left. They know more now. Darl's face shows it. Jewel's does not. They climb down in the yard. No one needs to say it. Cash comes out wiping his hands on his apron. Ance stands on the porch, hat in hand. Jewel walks past them all and goes to his horse. He stays in the barn a long time. He puts his face against the horse's neck. He says nothing. He does not cry. He just stands there, his forehead against the warm brown coat. Then he comes out. This is the part that breaks people when they read this book. Not the loud grief, not the speeches. The boy in the barn with his face against his horse's neck, because that horse is the only thing he can lean on. Cora Tull and the other neighbor women set out cold biscuits and coffee on the porch. Ance holds his hat over his stomach. Vardaman watches a chicken cross the yard. The morning is, in every other way, ordinary. They wait for Whitfield. The preacher, he has been called, and he is late. There is, it turns out, a reason for that. A long-ago reason. A reason that links Whitfield to Addie and, through her, to Jewel. Whitfield will preach the funeral as if everything is decent. He will speak of God and rest and the quiet hand. Inside his own head, Faulkner gives him a chapter. He is rehearsing what he was going to say to Addie before God killed her first. Years before, Whitfield and Addie met in the woods. He was the preacher of her parish. She was a young farm wife, raising sons. Their meeting was not blessed. Jewel, the third son, was the result. Ance has never known. Cash has never known. Darl has guessed. Jewel does not know. Addie has carried it all her life. Whitfield has carried his half and made it small inside his own theology. This is the secret that gives Addie's promise its weight. She wants to be buried in Jefferson, among her own people, not Ance's. The journey she has demanded is also, quietly, a leaving. The last leaving. Whitfield finishes his hymn. The neighbors lift the coffin. Cash leads them down the porch step. The wagon waits in the yard, the bed lined with hay. They slide the coffin in, they tie it down. Ance climbs onto the wagon seat. Cash beside him. Darl in the back near the coffin. Vardaman wedged between his sister and the side rail. Jewel does not climb up. He swings onto his pinto pony and rides. They start. The wagon turns out of the yard. Cora and Vernon Tull and the other neighbors stand on the porch and watch. They nod. They do not wave. There is a country way of saying goodbye that is mostly silence. The wagon goes down the long red clay road. The pines crowd close. The dust rises behind. The smell of summer earth and old hay. Behind them, the farmhouse becomes small, then a roof, then nothing. Stay with this, it matters later. The journey is 40 miles, in a wagon, with mules, across rivers, in summer heat, with a coffin already 3 days old. They have not packed nearly enough water. They pass farms. People come out to their porches and watch. They have heard. Word travels in this country faster than wagons. Some take their hats off. Some just stand. The wagon rolls past. The road goes on. If you drift off here, that's fine. The road keeps going on its own. The mules know the way. You don't have to follow every word. The wagon will still be on the road when you wake. The first night, they camp by the side of the road. They build a small fire. Ance sits on the wagon seat and looks at his hands. Cash takes out his folding rule and turns it slowly in the firelight. Vardaman climbs up beside the coffin. He puts his small hand flat on the lid. He says nothing aloud. In his head, he tells his fish, mother, that they are going on a long ride together. He sits there a long time. Jewel rides circles. He cannot stay still. He rides off into the dark, then comes back. He rides off again. The pinto pony's hooves are quiet on the soft red clay. The fire watches him come and go. Dewey Dell sits a little away from the fire. She has one hand on her stomach. She is thinking about the drugstore in Jefferson, and the boy at the cotton field, and the $10 folded inside her pocket. Darl lies on his back on the wagon bed beside the coffin. He looks at the stars. He talks in his own head to no one. He describes the night. He describes himself describing the night. He cannot stop. Morning, gray light. They eat cold biscuits and start again. The mules step into harness. The wagon creaks. The road bends down toward the river country. Ants complains that the road is hard on him. Notice how Faulkner does this. He gives Ants complaints small and constant. The road, the mules, his back, his teeth, each one small enough to ignore. Together, they tell you exactly who Ants is. They reach the first farm where the news is fresh. A man comes down off his porch. He says, "Did you hear about the bridge?" Ants says, "Which bridge?" The man says, "The bridge. There is only one bridge across the Yoknapatawpha River within 20 miles. It has washed out. The other bridges are also gone. The river has been rising for days. The road, in any practical sense, has stopped. The farmer suggests they wait a week. The river will go down. The road will mend. There is no shame in waiting." Ants listens. He nods. Then he says quietly that they will go on. The farmer steps back. The wagon moves on. The road dips lower. The pine country gives way to bottomland. The air grows damp and heavy. The smell from the wagon bed grows stronger. The family does not speak about it. Buzzards begin to follow the wagon. High up, slow circles. Vardaman looks up at them. He does not understand exactly, but he understands enough. He moves closer to his sister on the wagon seat. They pass another farm. The farmer's wife steps out to her porch. She watches the wagon pass. She covers her mouth with her apron. She does not lower it again until the wagon is out of sight. The road forks. The right branch goes north toward the broken bridge at the main crossing. The left branch goes east toward an older ford, the one that floods first. Ants takes the east fork. Cash watches him do it. Cash says nothing. This is the part most people miss. Cash already knows the east ford will be worse. So does Darrell. So does Jewel. Ants believes, somehow truly believes, that he will be the exception to bad water. They camp again at sundown, on a low rise above the bottomland. They can hear the river from where they are. It is loud. Louder than rivers should be. The kind of loud that means water is moving rocks. Vernon Tull rides out from his farm to find them. He has heard which way they went. He shakes his head when he sees the camp. He says, "The ford is gone." He says, "Come back as far as my place." He says, "Please." Ants listens to him politely. Then he says they will cross at the ford in the morning. The water will go down by then, he says. It is the kind of belief that does not depend on any evidence. Vernon stops arguing. He stays the night. Darrell lies on the wagon bed again. He listens to the river. He talks to himself in his head. He thinks about how water that loud is water that wants something. He thinks about how it has wanted things from his family for years. Cash lies under the wagon and counts in his head, mules, boards, distances, knots. He works out the angle the wagon will need to take across the ford. He works out where the rope should be tied. He works out, alone, what nobody asked him to. Morning. Gray. The river has not gone down. It has come up. Where the ford was yesterday, there is now 20 feet of brown water carrying logs. The family stands at the edge of it. Nobody speaks for a long minute. Vernon Tull arrives again. He has brought a coil of rope. He looks at the water. He looks at Ants. He says we'll need a longer rope than this. He says it gently. He is offering a way to wait again, dressed as advice. Ants shakes his head. He says the river will take us. He says it like a fact about himself. The river, he means, will single him out for trouble. The river, in his head, has always done this. He has decided the river is personal. Cash steps forward. He says, very quietly, we can cross here. We will need to angle the wagon upstream. We will need a rope from each side. 2 riders. He has been working it out under the wagon all night. He has it figured. Jewel will ride one rope across. Darl will ride the other. Ants will hold the lead mules from the wagon seat. Cash will balance on the wagon bed beside the coffin. Dewey, Dell, and Vardaman will walk down the bank. The plan is set. Dewey, Dell, and Vardaman walk along the bank to the far landing. They watch from the willows. Vardaman holds his sister's hand without being told. He looks at the river. He thinks about his fish. He does not know why he is thinking about his fish. Vernon Tull stays on the bank. He holds the near end of the second rope. His hands are steady. His face is not. He has been watching this family for 30 years. He has not seen them try anything quite this big. Ants calls to the mules. They balk. He calls again. Cash speaks once, low, easy. The mules step into the water. The wagon tilts. The current catches the wheels. The wagon slides sideways just slightly. Then it steadies. They are in. Jewel pulls the lead rope upstream from his pinto. Darl pulls the second from the bay mule. Cash leans into the coffin to balance the wagon. Ants holds the reins. The water reaches the mule's shoulders. The wagon is in the river. Stay with this. The wagon is in the water. The mules are pulling. The ropes are tight. The coffin is leaning. Cash is leaning back. Tomorrow's image, tonight's sound. The river holds it all in its slow brown weight. A log comes down the current. Half a tree, black with water, moving fast. Darl sees it first. He has no time to call out. Time slows the way it does when something is about to break. The log strikes the wagon. The wagon turns. The mules go under. The ropes whip. Cash is thrown sideways across the coffin. The world becomes brown water and shouting, and the cracking of wood. Cash's leg goes down between the wagon bed and the coffin. The wagon shifts again and the bone breaks. He does not cry out. He never does. He grips the coffin with both hands and he holds. The mules drown together. They go down with their harness still locked. Two thin animals that have pulled this family for years. Their heads come up once. Their eyes are very wide. Then they are gone. The coffin slides. The rope is tight, then loose again. The coffin tips off the back of the wagon and into the water. It bobs once. Then it begins to move with the current. Down the river, away. Jewel turns his pinto in the river and drives straight at the coffin. The pony fights the current. He whips the rope free. He grabs the coffin's rope. He pulls. The pony goes under to its eyes. It does not stop pulling. He drags the coffin out of the main current. He drags it across the slower water near the far bank. The pony staggers. Jewel kicks free of the saddle and gets behind the coffin and pushes it the last yards onto mud. Darl reaches the wagon. He takes Cash by the shoulders. He pulls him off the broken bed. They stagger together to the shallows. Ant's half falls from the wagon and wades. Vernon Tull throws a rope from the bank, and they catch it. They pull the wagon out slowly sideways. The bed is broken. One wheel is gone, snapped at the axle. The mules are gone. The ropes are cut. The coffin is on the muddy far bank. Cash is on his back beside it. Vardaman runs down the bank. He kneels beside Cash. He puts a small wet hand on his brother's chest. He says nothing. He looks at the coffin. In his head, he says, "My mother is a fish." Then he says nothing again. Dewey Dell finds the toolbox washed up downstream. She brings it back without speaking. Cash's tools, chisels, plane, folding rule, laid in the mud. Some are gone. The folding rule is there. She gives it to him. He takes it. Ants stands by the broken wagon. He looks at the river. He says more than once, "The mules. The mules." He does not look at his son. He does not look at the coffin. He looks at the empty harness and he weeps. This is the part most people misunderstand the first time. he grieves the mules openly. He does not grieve the woman in the coffin openly. The mules are easier to weep for. They cost money. She did not, in his small private accounting. Vernon Tull splashes across the shallow part with rope and a length of canvas. He helps Darl carry Cash up the bank. They lay him under a willow. Cash does not make a sound. The folding rule is still in his hand. They splint his leg with 2 short boards from the broken wagon and the rope from the river. Cash watches them work. He gives them the angle. He says very quietly, not too tight. Then he closes his eyes. The buzzards are still up there, higher now. Darl looks up at them and laughs once, very quietly. Nobody else laughs. Nobody else looks up. Dewey Dell glances at Darl. He sees her see him. He does not laugh again. Jewel comes back from the bank with the soaked coffin half pulled into the willows. He stands beside it. His shirt is torn at the shoulder. His pinto pony is shaking water off in the shallows behind him. He says nothing about what he did. Ants, after a long while, walks down the bank to the coffin. He puts a hand on it. He says, well, they got across, they got across. He sounds almost like he is forgiving the river, or congratulating himself. Vernon Tull rides home. He brings back a borrowed pair of mules and a length of new rope. He helps them right the wagon. He helps them slide the coffin back into its bed. He does not say what he is thinking. He has done that already. They camp where they are. They build a fire under the willows. Cash lies on a blanket with his splinted legs straight. Vardaman lies beside him, his head against his brother's good arm. Nobody says much. The fire just burns. Darl walks alone away from the fire. He goes down to the river edge in the dark. He stands at the bank and looks at the water that took the mules. He talks to himself in his head. He talks for a long time. Jewel rubs down his pinto in the dark. He gives the pony the last of his own bread. He sits with his back against a willow and his arm around the pony's leg, and he does not sleep at all that night. He listens to Cash's breathing. Dewey Dell lies on the blanket on the other side of the fire. She does not sleep either. She thinks about her brother saving the coffin. She thinks about her brother knowing her secret. She thinks about the drugstore at the end of the road. Cash on his blanket does not complain. Once in his sleep, his hand twitches toward the splint. Vardaman, beside him, takes the hand and holds it. Cash does not wake. The fire burns lower. The willows hush. This is why we read these books at night, for the part that still holds. A wagon broken, a leg broken, a river crossed at terrible cost, and a child holding his brother's hand by a low fire. Morning, gray again. Cash's leg is dark blue at the splint. Vernon Tull rides over from his farm with breakfast biscuits and milk. He looks at the leg and he winces. He says, we need a doctor. Cash, awake now, says, drive on. They lift Cash into the wagon bed beside the coffin. They settle him on a folded blanket. He does not cry out. He keeps the folding rule in his closed hand. The borrowed mules are hitched. The wagon starts again. The borrowed mules are not as good as the dead ones. They balk at hills. They flick their ears at the smell. The wagon is slower now. The road climbs out of bottomland. The buzzards still circle lower today. Vardaman watches them. They reach a small farm at midday. The man comes out. He looks at Cash's leg. He looks at the wagon. He says, I have a pair of mules I will trade. Ants listens. Ants knows he has nothing to trade. Yet he begins, very slowly, to figure something out. He says, my boy Cash has been saving for a gramophone. He has $30. He says, my boy Jewel has tools at home worth 20 more. He says, my boy Jewel has a horse. The horse, he says, is worth a great deal. Cash on the wagon bed, hears his gramophone money go. He does not say anything. The gramophone has been in his head for years, the image of one in his front room at home. He nods once. Ants takes that nod as agreement. Jewel hears his tools go. He does not say anything either. The tools belong to him. They were how he was going to clear another field next year. He stares at his father. His father will not look at him. He knows what his father has not said yet. The farmer says he wants to think on it. He goes back to his porch. The wagon waits in the road. Ants climbs down to relieve himself. Jewel walks straight to him. Jewel says one sentence. Ants does not answer. Jewel mounts his pinto. He turns the pony down the road. He rides off. He does not look back. The family watches him go. The farmer comes back from his porch. The trade, he says, is set. While Jewel is gone, Ants closes the deal. The borrowed mules go back to Vernon Toll's farm. 2 new mules, better, stronger, come to the wagon. Ants keeps the trade quiet. Cash watches. Cash understands. Cash says nothing aloud. When Jewel comes back, he is on foot. The pinto pony is at the farmer's barn. Ants has already arranged the trade. The horse, the tools, Cash's gramophone money, all of it. Ants meets his son in the road. He does not apologize. He says it had to be done. Jewel walks past his father. He climbs up on the wagon bed beside Cash. He sits with his back against the coffin. He says nothing. He stays there. He will not ride the new mules. He will not sit on the wagon seat. He will not speak. This is the saddest trade in the book. Not because Ants cheats his son. He has cheated his son before. It is sad because Jewel pays, knowing he is paying because his mother asked. He gives up the only thing he chose. He gives it for her. Here, near the middle of the journey, Faulkner does something extraordinary. He gives Addie a chapter from the coffin, from the dead, her own voice. The only chapter she gets. Listen carefully. This is the heart of the book. She tells her own story. Backward through time. She was a schoolteacher in Jefferson before she married. She hated the children. She hated the words she had to teach them. Words, she says, are not enough for what is real. She would whip the children, sometimes, just to make them feel her. Just to know she was real to them. To know they were real to her. She knew this was wrong. She did not know how to make herself stop. Then Ants came along the road one day and asked her to marry him. She said yes. She believed marriage would be a kind of solidness. A real thing, not a word. She was wrong about that too. Words went on failing her. They married. She bore Cash. She loved Cash in her quiet way. She felt him real in her arms. Then she bore Darrell. By Darrell, she had begun to know that Ants was a word for something that was not there. Darrell, she felt, was not really hers. Then Whitfield, the preacher. She met him in the woods. She lay with him because she wanted something real. Jewel was the result. Jewel, she says, was hers in a way the other children never were. Jewel was her sin and her revenge. After Jewel, she gave Ants 2 more children to balance the books. Dewey Dell and Vardaman. She owed him 2, she felt, for the one she had taken without permission. Then she lay down. She was ready to be done. She made Ants promise to bury her in Jefferson, with her own people, not his. She asked it knowing he would dread the trip. She asked it knowing it would be hard. She asked it because she wanted, after a life of words, one true deed. Then her chapter ends. Her voice goes back into the coffin. The wagon is moving. The road is moving. The buzzards are still up there, and the family, without knowing what she has just said to you, is keeping her one true deed. This is why she made them go. Not because she loved Jefferson, not because she hated Ants, because she needed one thing to actually happen. Not a promise, but a journey. Not a word, but mud and water and a broken leg and a horse traded. Hold that thought. The book has been quietly arguing with itself the whole time. Words against deeds. Promises against acts. Ants loves the language of suffering. Cash loves the work of building. Jewel loves the silence of a horse. And Darl loves the seeing. He sees too clearly. He sees his mother's affair without being told. He sees Dewey Dell pregnant. He sees Ance's small private trades. He laughs at the buzzards because he sees them as honest. He cannot bear the rest. The family camps again that night beside a small, clear creek. The fire is low. The mules are tied. The coffin is in the wagon. Cash's leg is darker still. Vardaman cradles the folding rule on his small chest where his brother gave it to keep. Dewey Dell goes to the creek to wash her face. Darl follows. They stand a few yards apart on the bank. He says nothing. She looks at him. She knows he knows. She knows he has always known. She decides in that moment what she will do. It is ugly what she decides. It is also fair in her 17-year-old sense of fairness. He has known her secret. He has known it without permission. The first chance she gets, she will give him to the people who can make him stop seeing. Killing the mules in the river was violence. What comes next requires something else entirely. A family folding in on itself. A brother's seeing turned into evidence against him. The journey carrying its own slow, terrible justice. Tomorrow they reach a town called Matson. They will buy cement at the store. They will pour cement on Cash's leg. They will sleep in a barn that will, by morning, be on fire. Tonight the camp is quiet. Tonight the buzzards roost. Tonight the coffin waits. Matson is a small town, a railway station, a square, a general store. The wagon comes down the main street in late afternoon. People on the boardwalks turn to look. Some of them step inside their doorways. The smell goes ahead of the wagon now. Ance stops the wagon at the general store. He climbs down. He goes inside. He buys a sack of cement. The clerk asks no questions. The clerk has, by now, heard. The town has, by now, heard. The town is being polite by not asking. Outside in the wagon bed, Cash's leg has gone the wrong colors. The flesh around the splint is dark. Darl looks at it and looks away. Vardaman holds the folding rule. Ance comes out with the cement. Ance says this will help. They mix the cement with creek water in a bucket on the boardwalk. Darl pours. Cash watches. They pour the wet cement around his splint. They tell him it will set hard. It will hold the leg. He nods. He closes his eyes. He does not say what he knows. A young man on the boardwalk says, quietly, that this will burn the skin. He says it will not heal. He says they should find a doctor. Ance smiles and nods and thanks him. Ance does not change the plan. The wagon goes on. Dewey Dell goes to the Matson drugstore while the wagon waits. She tries to buy something for her trouble. The drugstore man looks at her. He understands. He says, I cannot help you. He looks ashamed of his answer. She walks back to the wagon. She does not tell anyone what happened. She walks back to the wagon. She climbs up. She sits beside Vardaman. He sees her face. He asks, are we going home now? She says not yet. She does not say where they are going. She does not know herself. The wagon leaves Matson. The road climbs again. The cement on Cash's leg sets hard. He cannot move it now. He cannot move himself. He lies very still beside the coffin. He does not complain. He says once it itches some. That is all. They reach the Gillespie farm at sundown. The Gillespies are kind. They offer the family a meal. They offer the wagon a place in the barn for the night. The barn is full of fresh hay. The coffin can rest dry. Ance accepts. Cash is carried into the cabin. The wagon is rolled into the barn. The mules are unhitched and stalled. The coffin is laid in the center of the barn, on saw horses, surrounded by the smell of hay and cattle and old wood. The barn doors are pulled almost closed. The night settles down. Darl walks alone from the cabin to the barn at full dark. He stands inside the doorway. He looks at the coffin. He decides, quietly, terribly, in his own head, that this has gone far enough. He has matches. He kneels at the hay. He strikes a match. The hay catches fast. The flames climb the dry walls. The cattle begin to bellow. Smoke rolls under the rafters. The lantern falls. The fire roars to the roof inside 2 minutes. Outside, the family hears it. The Gillespies run from the cabin. Jewel runs first. Jewel goes into the burning barn. He drives the cattle out first, slapping their flanks, getting them through the doors. Then he drags the wagon out. Then he turns. He goes back inside. He goes back for the coffin. He drags the sawhorses aside. He lifts one end of the long pine coffin onto his shoulder. The fire climbs the walls behind him. The roof beams begin to crack. He carries the coffin alone, end over end, toward the open doors. He does not stop. He drags it through the open doors and out into the yard. He lays it down on the cool grass. His shirt is on fire across one shoulder. He slaps it out with his bare hand. The barn collapses behind him. Sparks rise into the night sky. The family stands in a circle around the coffin. This moment is the one most people remember. The boy who was quiet, who would not say he loved his mother, who lost his horse, who lost everything, pulling the coffin out of the fire, alone, with his shirt burning. He has been a son the whole time, just not in words. Darl stands at the edge of the firelight. He does not help carry. He does not run forward. He watches. Mr. Gillespie sees him. Gillespie does not say anything yet, but he has seen. The whole farm has lost a barn. Somebody set the fire. He is beginning to know. The barn is gone by morning. The Gillespies have lost their cattle's shelter and the year's hay. They have not lost the coffin. The wagon is unburned. The mules are alive. Ance stands in the cold ash and says God's hand was on us. Mr. Gillespie does not answer. Mr. Gillespie speaks privately with Ance before the wagon leaves. He does not press charges. He says only, I know who set my barn. He says, they will come for him in Jefferson or I will have to. Ance listens. Ance calculates. Ance nods. Breathe here. The story keeps going on its own for a moment. A barn has burned. A sun has set it. Another son has saved his mother from the fire. The wagon turns onto the last stretch of road toward Jefferson. The end of the journey is finally in sight. They reach Jefferson at mid-morning. Brick courthouse with white columns. Dirt streets. Hitching posts. Tall pecan trees casting wide shade. The wagon comes down the square. People stop on the boardwalks. People close shutters. The coffin is, by now, 10 days old. They go straight to the cemetery. Ance has borrowed 2 shovels from a man on the road. Cash, Darl, and Jewel dig the grave together. Ance stands beside the wagon and holds the mules. Vardaman watches. Dewey Dell watches. The buzzards do not follow into town. They wait above the trees outside the square. They lower the coffin into the ground. The pine is dark from river and sun and a little soot. They cover it with the loose Jefferson dirt. They smooth the mound. Ance takes off his hat. Ance keeps the hat off for almost a minute. Then he puts it back on. The promise is kept. They take Cash to Dr. Peabody. Peabody, 300 pounds, 70 years old, looks at the cement on the leg. He swears very loudly, in language a country doctor reserves for a special grade of foolishness. Then he gets to work. He cracks the cement off with a chisel. Cash will keep the leg. he will limp the rest of his life. Peabody tells Ants that Ants should be horsewhipped. Ants listens politely. Ants nods. Ants pays what little he can. Ants leaves. Ants walks back to the square with a small private spring in his step. Ants goes off by himself to do what he calls his errand. He is going to a dentist on the back of the square. He is going to spend the family's last money on his teeth. He has waited years. The wife is buried. The road is over. It is, he believes, his turn now. While he is gone, Dewey Dell tries one more drugstore. The man behind the counter, younger, not the kind one, agrees to help. He takes her $10. He takes her into the back of the shop. He gives her something useless. He takes more from her than money. She walks out into the sun and she does not cry. This is the part most people miss the first time. The journey that buried her mother also failed her. The town that received the coffin did not receive her. She walks back to the wagon. She does not tell anyone. There is, by now, no one in this family she would tell. Two men in dark coats arrive at the wagon in the late afternoon. They are from the state asylum at Jackson. Mr. Gillespie sent word ahead. Ants, in his quiet calculation, has not contested it. The men stand near the wagon. They wait for Darrell. When Darrell returns to the wagon from a small private walk, the men close in. They take him by both arms. He does not struggle. He looks at his sister. She looks back at him without flinching. He understands. He laughs once, very softly. He does not stop laughing for a long time. They put Darrell on the train at the Jefferson station. The train will carry him to Jackson, to the state asylum. He looks out the window of the rail car. He laughs at his own reflection in the glass. He begins to talk about himself in the third person. Darrell is on the train, he thinks. Darrell is laughing. Darrell is gone. The train pulls out of Jefferson. Darrell rides toward Jackson. The asylum gates wait at the end of the line. Tall iron gates set in red brick walls. A long curving drive lined with elms. Darrell looks out the window. He keeps laughing. He calls himself, in his head, by his own name very politely. This is the cruelest moment in the book. Not because the family is wrong. They had reasons. The barn, the lawsuit, the neighbors. They had reasons. Reasons are not the same as love. Darrell, who saw too much, is delivered to a place where they will tell him he saw nothing. At the wagon in Jefferson, after the train has gone, Cash sits very still. He thinks about his brother. He thinks about whether Darrell was crazy or only too clear. He decides in the end that it does not much matter. The result is the same. They have lost him. He keeps the thought. He does not say it. Ants is gone for hours. The family eats peanuts on the wagon. Vardaman watches a yellow dog cross the square. Dewey Dell sits beside her brother Cash with the small useless bottle in her apron pocket. Jewel does not sit at all. Jewel walks the square in slow circles. Ants comes back at dusk. He is wearing a stiff black coat over his overalls. His mouth has changed shape. He is wearing new teeth. Full white set, top and bottom. He smiles at the family without quite looking at them. He says, "I am ready to go home." But he is not alone. There is a woman beside him on the boardwalk. Sturdy, dark-eyed, a duck-shaped woman with a hard-faced look. She is carrying a small portable phonograph in a wooden case. Ants says, "This is Mrs. Bundren." The family does not move. There is a long silent moment in the square. The children stare. Cash blinks once. Dewey Dell makes a small sound and looks away. Jewel says nothing. Jewel never says anything. Ants offers the new Mrs. Bundren up onto the wagon seat. The new Mrs. Bundren climbs up. The phonograph sits in her lap. Cash recognizes the phonograph. It is the gramophone he was saving for. The very one. Ants bought it on the way back from the dentist. Cash does not say anything aloud. In his own head, Faulkner gives him this thought. He thinks that's a nice phonograph. It is, after all, a nice phonograph. The wagon turns back out of Jefferson at full dusk. The family inside it is one short. Addie is in the ground. Darl is on a train. The horse is in another man's barn. Cash has a limp. Dewey Dell has a small useless bottle. And Ants has his new teeth, and his new wife, and his nice phonograph. Hear that. The book ends almost cheerfully. A new wife, a new instrument, new teeth. The journey done, the promise kept, the Bundrens going home, and inside that almost cheerful ending, a quiet horror. Because somebody paid for every one of those new things. Cash paid with his leg and his savings. Jewel paid with his horse. Dewey Dell paid in a back room of a drugstore. Darl paid with his entire mind. Vardaman paid with whatever a child has to pay when his world becomes a fish. Addie, of course, paid first. Ants paid the least. Ants, who set out with his hat in hand, has come back with his hat still in hand and a new wife on his arm. Faulkner does not punish him. Faulkner does not let you punish him either. Faulkner just lets you see. That is the end of the story. Not a happy ending. Not a tragic one. A country ending. A real one. People go home with what they have left. They make the best of it. They do not, mostly, look back. The wagon goes on down the road. Behind them, in Jefferson, the smoothed dirt of a fresh grave. In Jackson, in a brick building behind iron gates, a tall, thin young man, laughing softly to himself in the third person. On a neighboring farm, a wary pinto pony in a stall with a new owner. In a back room, a young woman who will not say what was done to her. And on the long road home, on a wagon that is one short and a phonograph heavier, the Bundrens. Less than they were. Other than they were. Ants with his teeth. Cash with his folding rule. Vardaman with his exhaustion. Dewey Dell with her silence. Jewel with his back to them all. That is the journey, 40 miles, 2 weeks. One mother delivered, one son lost, one leg ruined, one girl wronged, one horse traded, one barn burned, one promise kept, one family changed forever in ways no one of them will ever say aloud. Faulkner will not write the homecoming. The book ends here, the wagon receding. The reader holding the whole bag of grief and absurdity and small private cruelties. There is nothing more to do with it. There is nothing left to say. Stay with this, the silence after is part of it. That ending, small, almost ordinary, almost cheerful, is what makes the book what it is. A tragedy that does not announce itself as a tragedy. A family that does not grieve in the ways grief is supposed to be done. A book that trusts you to feel what nobody in it will say. Now, before we leave the story altogether, we should sit for a little with the man who made it, because the way this book is told is as remarkable as what it tells. And the man who told it was, in his own quiet way, doing something nobody had quite done before. William Faulkner was 29 years old when he started this book. He had published 2 novels already. Neither had sold well. He was working night shifts at the power plant of the University of Mississippi in a town called Oxford. Not the famous Oxford, the other one. He worked the late shift alone in the boiler room, watching the gauges. Long stretches of nothing. He set up an upturned wheelbarrow as a writing desk. He wrote on whatever paper he could find. He wrote this book, this whole book, in 6 weeks. He claimed not to change a word. That last claim is probably not true. But it is true that he wrote it fast. And it is true that he wrote it in a single fevered burst, while the boilers ticked beside him and the small Mississippi town slept around him. The book carries that speed in its bones. Listen for it. Tomorrow night we will sit longer with him. With the power plant, the town of Oxford, the imaginary county he invented and wrote about for the rest of his life. For now, the journey is done. The wagon has gone home. The reader can lay the book down. The lamp can stay low. Stay with this. The Bundrens are home. The lamp is low. The road is empty. The story has done what it came to do. Tomorrow night we will sit with the man and the place. Tonight the journey is finally over. Rest. If you drift off here, that's perfect. This is where the story rests. The Bundrens are home. From here on, we just sit a little with the man who imagined them. The journey is over. There is nothing more to follow. William Faulkner was born in 1897 in New Albany, Mississippi. His family moved to Oxford, Mississippi when he was 4. He never really left. He lived in Oxford most of his life. Almost everything he wrote, he set within 50 miles of his own front porch. His great-grandfather was a famous local man, a colonel in the Confederate Army, a railroad builder, a novelist himself of all things. He was shot dead in the Oxford town square by a former business partner. The boy Faulkner heard the story all his life. He grew up in the long shadow of the Old South, the defeat, the Civil War, the pretense. His grandfather was a banker. His father ran a livery stable, then a hardware store, then drifted. The Faulkners, they spelled it with no U then, were quietly fading. He read everything, he drew. He wrote poems. He failed to graduate from the local high school. He worked at the family bank. He worked at the post office. He was, by every account, a quiet, strange, slightly dreamy young man with no obvious future. When the First World War came, he tried to enlist as a pilot. The American Army would not take him because he was too short, so he went to Canada. He told the British Royal Air Force he was English. He trained in Toronto. The war ended before he ever flew in combat. He came home with a uniform and a slight limp he did not earn, and stories of combat he never had. He told them anyway, for years. In Oxford, he was a small mythic figure for a while. Then he was just a man who had not done very much yet. He drifted. He took the postmaster job at the university post office. He read on the job instead of sorting mail. People complained. Letters did not arrive. He was finally fired. He said on his way out, "I will be at the beck and call of every son of a bitch with 2 cents for a stamp no longer." He took his small severance pay and went to New Orleans. There he met a writer named Sherwood Anderson, who was already famous. Anderson liked him. Anderson taught him about modernism. Anderson told him, "Stop writing about the South pretending to be Europe. Write about the South. This is the part most people miss." Faulkner did not become Faulkner alone. He had a teacher. He had a town. He had 4 years of failure as a poet. Then he listened to Sherwood Anderson and went home to Mississippi and started writing about Yoknapatawpha County. Yoknapatawpha. The name comes from a real Chickasaw word for the river that runs through the actual county where Oxford sits. He used the name for an imaginary version of his own county. He drew a map. He gave it a population, 6,000 whites and 10,000 black people, by his count. Over 30 years, he wrote 19 novels and dozens of stories set in that county. The same families recurred, the same houses, the same roads. By the end, he had built a whole world out of one small Mississippi place. The Bundrens are one family inside it. There are many. He believed something most other writers of his time did not. He believed that small Mississippi places contained the entire human story, birth and death and love and money and shame and pride and madness. He did not need Paris. He had Oxford. He had Yoknapatawpha. He had enough. His first 3 novels did not sell. he kept writing. His fourth, The Sound and the Fury, did not sell either. He took the money from a small loan and got married to his childhood sweetheart, Estelle. They moved into a slowly collapsing antebellum house called Rowan Oak. He kept writing. He needed money. He took the night shift job at the university power plant. He sat in the boiler room from midnight to 4. The boilers needed only an occasional check. The rest of the time, he wrote. By lamplight, on the upturned wheelbarrow, 6 weeks. As I lay, he wrote in pencil first. Then he wrote in ink. He had the structure in his head before he started. 15 voices, 1 journey, the dead mother at the center. He claimed later he wrote it in 6 weeks without changing a word. The truth is closer to 8 weeks and many small revisions. Either way, fast. He told a friend he was writing what he called a tour de force. He said he wanted to do something nobody else had done. He wanted, in particular, to write a novel where the form itself was the meaning. Where the way you read the book taught you something about how people see each other. That is what 15 Voices does. Each Bundren and each neighbor sees the same events differently. Each has their own logic, their own small pride, their own small wrong. Reading the book is learning that there is no neutral story. There is only the sum of the voices. This was not, in 1930, a familiar way to write a novel. The reader had to do work. The reader had to fit the voices together. The reader had to forgive a strange chapter, like Vardaman's, My Mother is a Fish, and trust the book to come back into focus. Faulkner trusted the reader. Most readers eventually trusted him back. When the book was published in October 1930, it sold poorly. It got mixed reviews. Critics did not know what to do with it. Faulkner went on writing. He spent the 1930s writing more novels nobody read. He went to Hollywood to make money. He drank a great deal. He kept writing. He wrote screenplays for Howard Hawks. He drank in studio offices. He missed his wife and his daughter in Oxford. He flew home as often as he could. He went on writing the Yoknapatawpha books between Hollywood paychecks. He thought of Hollywood as renting time so he could write. The world began to find him slowly. French critics noticed him in the late 1930s. They translated him. They wrote about him as one of the great living American writers. American readers, who were not reading him, started to wonder why the French were so excited. In 1949, the Nobel Prize for Literature was given to him. He almost did not go to Stockholm to accept it. He hated speeches. He drank heavily through the journey. But he went. He stood up in white tie and tails. He gave one of the great Nobel speeches of the century. He said, "I decline to accept the end of man." He said man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He said, the writer's privilege is to help man endure by lifting his heart. He flew home to Oxford the next morning. He went back to writing. He wrote novels and stories for another 12 years after the Nobel. He gave readings at universities. He kept Rowan Oak. He kept Estelle. He kept Oxford. He died in 1962, at 64, of a heart attack after a fall from a horse. He was buried in St. Peter's Cemetery in Oxford. The grave is plain. That is the man. Now the world he wrote into. Mississippi, 1929 and 1930. The years As I Lay Dying was being written and published. The American Great Depression was just beginning. Cotton prices had collapsed. Small farms were failing across the South. The Bundrens are exactly the kind of family that the Depression, when it arrived, would crush. They were already poor. They were already barely holding on. A bad season, a sick mule, a flooded river. Any of those was the difference between survival and ruin. Faulkner knew this. The book quietly knows this. This is also the South of Jim Crow. of segregation, of legal discrimination, of unspeakable violence against Black Mississippians. Faulkner did not, in this book, write about that directly. The Bundrens are white. Their journey is a poor white family's journey. The world around them is harder. Faulkner wrote about race in other novels: Light in August, Go Down Moses, Intruder in the Dust. He was not a perfect writer about race. He was a white Mississippian writing in his own time. But he was unflinching where most of his contemporaries looked away. In As I Lay Dying, he stayed close to the Bundrens. He gave them dignity without flattery. He gave them grief without ennoblement. He gave them stupidity without contempt. He gave them small private cruelties without making them villains. He gave them, most of all, voices. That is the gift of the book, voices. Real ones. A poor white Mississippi family with a dead mother. The country has met them many times since 1930. In books, in songs, in films. Almost all of those meetings owe Faulkner something. He did not write only this kind of book. He also wrote enormous, sentence-shaped, swirling books. The Sound and the Fury, Absalom, Absalom, Light in August, Go Down Moses. Each one different, each one Yoknapatafa. As I Lay Dying is the slimmest and the most accessible. It is the way most people meet him. For a sleep reading like this one, As I Lay Dying is also the kindest of his books. It is short. It is plain in its sentences, mostly. The structure is strange, but the language is, line by line, almost simple. The Bundrens speak the way Mississippi farmers actually spoke. The book lets you in. That accessibility is part of why the book has stayed in print continuously for almost a century. American high school students read it. American college students read it. People who have never read another Faulkner read it. They remember it. They remember Vardaman's fish. They remember Cash's leg. They remember Jewel and the fire. You can read the book in a long evening. You can read it slowly across a week. You can listen to it the way you are listening tonight. For the people, and for the strangeness of how they see each other, and for the small kindness Faulkner shows even to the Bundrens at their worst. That kindness is, I think, the secret of why people return to Faulkner. He does not love the Bundrens because they are good. He loves them because they are real, because they are trying, because they are, in their own bewildered way, holding their own world together. He is not sentimental about them. He is not bitter about them. He is, in some quiet way, with them. He sees ants for what ants is. He sees Jewel for what Jewel is. He sees Darl for what Darl is. He gives each one a voice, and he lets that voice say what it can. That posture, the writer with each character, not above any of them, is what made him so important to writers who came after him. We will sit with those writers tomorrow, the ones who learned from him, the ones who never quite escaped him, the ones who kept arguing with him. For now, just rest. One last thing, before we leave the man and the time. Faulkner once said the past is never dead. It's not even past. He meant it about the South. He meant it about families. He meant it about the way each of his characters carried whole histories around inside them. The Bundrens carry them too. Addie carries her schoolhouse into her dying. Ants carries his complaints into his second marriage. Cash carries his folding rule the rest of his life. Darl carries something he never asked to see. Vardaman carries his fish. The book asks you to carry a little of each of them with you. That is the whole work. That is enough about the man and the time. Tomorrow night we will sit a while with the books that came after. The ones that could not have been written without this one. For now, the lamp is low, the book is closed, the Bundrens are home. Stay with this if you can. The journey, the man, the time. 3 different ways to look at the same small Mississippi book. Each way ends in the same place. A wagon stopped in a yard, a reader stopped in a chair, a lamp burning low, a breath drawn quietly. Faulkner once described his writing as a long argument with himself about the people of his county. As I Lay Dying was an early piece of that argument. A small, slim book that did so much work in so little space. He went on arguing with himself for 30 more years. He wrote his last novel, The Reivers, in 1962. He won a second Pulitzer Prize for it posthumously. By then he had become a household name, a national figure, a writer parents had heard of even if they had not read him. The author photo on every paperback. The dark eyes, the mustache, the quiet face. He had become, slowly, what his great-grandfather had been, a famous local man. Only this time the fame was for words, not for railroads or wars or shootings. The Faulkner family ledger had filled in the blank space. The boy who failed high school had given Mississippi a voice in world literature. He died on a hot Mississippi morning. The funeral was small. The town closed its shops. Everyone walked. The grave is plain, a slab of stone with his name and dates. People still leave bourbon glasses on it. He, no doubt, would forgive that. He drank a great deal of bourbon himself. That is the man. A small Mississippi life, a few crowded years of fame, a lifetime of writing about one county, 19 novels, dozens of stories, the Nobel speech, the plain grave, the bourbon glasses. The Bundren still rolling somewhere down a red clay road in a reader's mind tonight. Tomorrow we will sit with what came after him. The writers across America who learned to listen for 15 voices. The writers across Latin America who saw a path through magical realism opened partly by him. The writers in our own time still using techniques he tried in this slim book in 1930. The book has done its work for tonight. The man has been sat with for tonight. The country has been seen. The wagon is in the yard. The lamp is low. The reader can lay everything down. There is nothing more to do this evening with this book. Stay with this for a moment. Mississippi at night. The pine country quiet, a wagon parked in a yard somewhere, a reader lying still in another country far away. Both of them held by the same small book. The lamp burning low, the world resting around it, dressed. As I Lay Dying came into a world that was already changing how stories could be told. James Joyce had published Ulysses 8 years earlier. Virginia Woolf had published To the Lighthouse 3 years earlier. Modernism was the air. Faulkner was breathing it. But Faulkner did something with modernist technique that the European writers had not quite done. He used it for poor country people. He gave Vardaman the kind of inner monologue Joyce gave to Stephen Dedalus. He gave ants the slow circling thought that Woolf gave to her London painters. That was, in 1930, a quietly radical move. The European modernists were trying to map the consciousness of artists, scholars, soldiers. Faulkner was using the same technique to map the consciousness of an 8-year-old farm boy holding a fish. The technique worked just as well there, maybe better. Notice how Faulkner did this. He did not make Vardaman speak in elevated language. He did not give him philosophical paragraphs. He gave him a sentence. My mother is a fish, the whole interior life of grief in a child compressed into 5 words. Modernism made simple. Modernism made country. That move, using modernist tools to honor people who had been written about as caricature for a century, is one of his great gifts to the writers who came after. He showed that you could take the new techniques and bring them home. You could take Joyce's interior monologue and carry it down a red clay road. This is the part most people miss. Faulkner did not just influence the way American novels were written. He influenced how American novels listened. After As I Lay Dying, it became harder to write about poor white country people as types. The book had given them inner voices. Other writers had to follow. The most direct line of inheritance runs through what people call Southern Gothic. Flannery O'Connor, small Georgia farms, violent small revelations, families on the road. Carson McCullers, small towns, small lonely hearts. Eudora Welty, Mississippi voices, time and weather and the slow weight of place. Then Cormac McCarthy, whose families and journeys and quiet violence and biblical sentence rhythms all lean back toward Yoknapatawpha. The road, in particular, a man and a son walking through a destroyed country, carrying a promise, is, in a strange way, As I Lay Dying again. Different country, same ache. Toni Morrison, on the other side of America's racial history, also worked at what Faulkner had begun. She wrote about communities of voices. She wrote about the dead returning. She wrote about families whose secrets shaped a town. She named Faulkner as a teacher she argued with the rest of her life. Listen for that. The way each of these writers takes some part of what Faulkner did and pushes it further. The voices grow more polyphonic, the communities grow more diverse, the promises grow stranger, but the underlying belief that ordinary places contain extraordinary inner lives comes back again and again to him. Then there is Latin America. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian novelist, said Faulkner was the writer who showed him a way through. Showed him that small towns could contain whole histories. Showed him that the dead could speak. 100 years of solitude, in some quiet way, owes Yoknapatawpha a debt. Garcia Marquez said, when I read Faulkner, I knew I had to be a writer. He said, he taught me that what looks small and local contains everything. He said, he gave me permission to write about Arikataka, the way Faulkner wrote about Oxford. The translation was nearly direct. Through Garcia Marquez, the influence spread. Mario Vargas Llosa in Peru, Juan Rulfo in Mexico, whose great novel Pedro Ramo features a town of speaking dead, the structural cousin of As I Lay Dying, Carlos Fuentes. Isabel Allende, the whole Latin American boom carried Faulkner inside it. That is one of the strange and beautiful things about literary influence. A man writing on an upturned wheelbarrow in a Mississippi power plant in 1929 reaches, 3 decades later, into the dreams of a young Colombian writer in a small Caribbean port. The line between them runs straight. The Bundrens helped make Macondo possible. Closer to home, the technique itself, multiple narrators, each in their own head, has become so common that we forget who first made it work. Almost every prestige novel of the last 40 years owes the technique to Faulkner. From Jonathan Franzen to Jennifer Egan to Brian Washington, the multi-voice novel is the modern American form. As I Lay Dying is the seed. Stay with this. It matters tonight as much as in 1930. The reason multi-voice novels keep returning is because they answer something we know about being human. We know nobody sees a family the same way. We know our own brothers and sisters carry, in their own heads, slightly different versions of our shared past. Faulkner showed novelists how to put that truth on the page. We do not live in a single shared story. We live in 15 different versions of one story, all happening at once, all rubbing against each other. The Bundrens were the first family to be granted that. They were not the last. That is why the book endures. Because we keep, all of us, having the same experience. We keep finding out that our father saw it differently than our mother. That our sister has been carrying a secret. That our brother, the smart one, was breaking quietly all along. that the family we thought was one is, in fact, several at once. Faulkner gave us a structure for that recognition. He gave us a form that could hold it without flattening it. The book is not, in the end, about Mississippi at all. Mississippi was the means. The end was something else, something we know, something about love. Something about the way love is rarely spoken in the words we wish we had used. Something about the way it shows up in what people do. Building a coffin, riding a horse into a fire, walking across a flooded river, when they cannot find the words for what they feel. That is what the book's real subject is. Love that cannot find its words. Love that pays the wrong price. Love that gets the journey done, and at terrible cost. Love that is half noble and half foolish and entirely human. Faulkner trusted us to recognize it. Most readers do. Tonight, lying somewhere in your own bed, you may recognize parts of it. The promise you kept past the point of reason. The brother or sister whose secret you carried. The parent you watched fail and could not help. The thing you could not say but tried to do instead. The small fire. The long road. That recognition is what makes a book outlast its time. As I Lay Dying is, in 2026, almost a century old. The mules and wagons are gone. The country it described is barely there anymore. And yet readers tonight still recognize themselves in it. That is the test of a book. The Bundrens still pass. There is one more reason the book stays. It is short. It is honest. It does not pretend to know more than it knows. It does not spell out its meaning. It does not console you. It does not lecture you. It just gives you 15 voices and a wagon and a coffin and lets you sit with it. That kind of trust is rare. We feel it. Faulkner did not call himself a great writer. In the Nobel speech, he called himself a worker in words. He said writing was about the human heart in conflict with itself. He said this was the only thing worth writing about. He said it quietly. He went home and wrote more. That phrase is what the Bundrens dramatize. The human heart in conflict with itself. Ants loving his wife and looking forward to her funeral as a chance to get teeth. Cash building a coffin for the mother he cannot say he loves. Jewel saving the body of the woman whose secret affair created him. Dewey Dell carrying her own life inside the body of her grief. Each heart in conflict with itself. This is a book that does not flinch from contradiction. It does not require its characters to be consistent. It does not require its readers to choose between sympathy and judgment. It lets you have both at once. That, more than any technique, is what made it modern, and what makes it still modern. Tomorrow, the literature classes will keep teaching it. The new editions will keep being printed. The students will keep arguing about Darl. The teachers will keep asking what Vardaman's fish means. The book will go on being met. Faulkner would be a little embarrassed by the attention. He would also be quietly satisfied. He once said the writer's only responsibility is to his art. He said, he must teach himself that the basest of all things is to be afraid. He said he writes about love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. He said it about himself. He said it about every writer. Stay with this for a moment. The Bundrens somehow are still on the road, tonight, in your head, as you fall towards sleep, the wagon still moving slowly through the pine country. The lamp on the porch still burning low. The story still going on its own, without needing you to follow. Why does this matter, finally? Why does a Mississippi novel from 1930 still ask something of us in 2026? Because the things it cared about are still the things that matter. Family, promise, death, the small dignity of going on, the strange weight of love that does not announce itself. Most of us will, sooner or later, be on a journey something like this, not with mules, not with a coffin, but with a parent declining, with a sibling we cannot reach, with a promise we did not exactly mean to make, with a small bag of money and a long road and a family doing its best. When that journey comes, the book will be there. As I Lay Dying does not give advice. It does not solve anything. It only sits beside you and says, very quietly, someone before you did this too. They did it imperfectly. They survived. The road went on, so will yours. This is the small comfort the great books offer. Not a fix, not an answer, company, a presence, a companion who has been here before. Faulkner sat at his upturned wheelbarrow in 1929. He wrote into the dark. He left this small, slim book in the dark for whoever came after him. Tonight, you came after him. That is the relationship books make, across years, across countries. A man wrote in Mississippi in 1929. A reader is being read to in 2026. The same words, the same wagons, the same Bundrens, the same cash measuring his bevels, the same Vardaman with his fish, the same low lamp, the same long road. That is the gift. Not insight, not lesson, company, quiet company. The kind that does not require you to be anything in particular. The kind that does not need you to finish the chapter. The kind that lets you fall asleep, if you need to, with the book open and the lamp low. That is the shape of every great bedtime book. It does not insist. It does not need you to stay awake. It asks only that you let it sit with you for a little while. That you trust it. That you let the small old story do its small old work, in its own way, in its own time. As I Lay Dying does that work very well. We are nearly at the end now. The man has been talked about. The book has been talked about. The legacy has been talked about. The Bundrens have been escorted as far as we can take them. From here on, the only remaining work is the small, careful work of sleep. Tomorrow night the wagon will still be in the yard. Cash's bevels will still be square. Vardaman's fish will still mean what it means. Darl will still be on his train. Ants will still have his teeth. The book is patient that way. It will keep perfectly until you come back. For now, the book is closed. The lamp is low. The wagon is in the yard. The country is dark. The reader is here. The story is held. From this point forward, we begin the slow, soft work of letting the night carry the rest. Just rest. We are letting the story go now, slowly. The wagon is back in its yard. The lamp inside the farmhouse is low. The road is quiet. The pine country settles around it. There is nothing more we need to follow. Just rest. Cash sits on the porch step with the small phonograph beside him. The new Mrs. Bundren has gone in. The night is warm. He listens to the country. His leg aches. He does not mind. He watches the moon rise. Vardaman is asleep at the foot of the bed inside. The folding rule is still in his small hand. He dreams a quiet dream. He does not dream of the fish. Tonight, just once, he dreams of the road behind them, settling. Dewey Dell sits at the kitchen table with the small useless bottle in front of her. She looks at it for a long time. Then she puts it away in the back of a drawer. She turns down the lamp. She goes to bed. Jewel sits in the barn with the empty stall where his pony used to stand. He puts his back against the wood of the door. He listens to the country. He does not sleep. He does not need to. He just listens. Ants and the new Mrs. Bundren sleep in the bed where Addie used to sleep. The lamp on the bedside crate is out. Ant snores quietly. The new Mrs. Bundren lies awake for a while looking at the ceiling. Then she sleeps too. In Jackson, in a small bare room in the asylum, Darl sits cross-legged on a narrow cot. He laughs softly to himself. He talks to himself in the third person. Darl is here, he says. Darl is laughing. Then he is quiet. He looks at the small high window. The moon is there too. In Jefferson Cemetery, the smooth dirt of Addie's grave catches a little of the same moonlight. The pecan trees stand tall. A single dry leaf settles on the new earth. The town around it is asleep. Addie is in her own way, finally at rest. The Yoknapatawpha River runs on. The water is calmer now. The bridges will mend in time. The buzzards have gone to roost. The whole long Mississippi country settles into its deep summer night. The wagon road is empty. The story is at rest. That is the last of the country we will see tonight. From here on, the lamp goes lower. The images go softer. The voice goes quieter. The world the book made is laid down for the night. Stay with this if you can. If not, that is fine. The Bundrens are home. The journey is done. The promise was kept. Each one of them paid in their own way. Now each one of them lies down. The book itself somewhere lies down too. The lamp on the bedside table burns low. There is, in any great book, a small quiet hour after the last page. The hour when the world it made keeps living for a little while inside you. The Bundrens are still moving in there. The wagon is still rolling. Cash's saw is still cutting pine. That hour is yours now. You can let it run on its own now. The story does not need you to stay awake. Cash will keep his bevels square without you. Vardaman will keep his fish. Ants will keep his teeth. Jewel will keep his silence. The story keeps going on its own. The lamp here is going lower. The room is settling. The blanket is warm. The book is closed. The country in the book is also dark. Somewhere, a single window is still lit. Somewhere, a single star is rising. The night is long. The road is laid down. The wagon is parked. The lamp is low. The book is here. The story is here. You are here. There is nothing else that needs to happen. Listen for the country settling. The pine ridges quiet. The river low. The barns dark. The animals folded into their stalls. The house is dark except for one lit window here and there. The Mississippi night holding everything gently. The book has done its work. The story has been told. The Bundrens have been carried. The reader has been kept company. There is nothing more for any of us to do. Just rest now, just rest. The night is wide. The body is heavy. The lamp is low. The country in the story is dark. The country outside your window is dark. Both of them quiet. Both of them holding you. There is no place else you need to be. Faulkner once said the past is never dead. Tonight that means something kind. The Bundrens are still on their road somewhere. The lamp on the porch still burns. The folding rule is still in the small hand. The story will keep, perfectly, until the next reader meets it. For now, the lamp here goes lower still. The room hushes. The breath slows. The blanket warms. The book is here beside you. The Bundrens are still rolling somewhere quietly. Your only work is to let go. That is what bedtime books are for. Not to be finished. Not to be remembered in detail. Just to walk you to the edge of sleep and to wait there with you while you cross. Tonight, this book has done that. We are nearly to the last quiet. The Bundrens have settled. The pine country has settled. The reader is settling. Just a few more soft images. Then the lights go all the way down. Then the story keeps itself. If tonight helped, even a little, there's a subscribe button somewhere on this page. Quietly. Next week, another book. Then the lamp goes the rest of the way down. One last small image of Cash. The folding rule open at a precise measure on the porch step beside him. The brass hinges catching pale moonlight. The small careful object of a careful life, settling. One last small image of Vardaman. The small hand loose now in sleep. The folding rule resting against the soft cotton of his shirt. The small even breath of a child finally at rest after a very long day. One last small image of Addie, her worn dark calico nightgown folded at the foot of the iron bedstead, the years of wear soft at the edges, the body gone, the small object remaining, the country settling around it. The book will still be here tomorrow, so will we. Sleep well. Next time, something older, closer to the beginning. Bring your night. Good night, Addie. Good night, Cash. Good night, Yoknapatawpha. Good night, the long pine road. The lamp is very low now. The country is dark. The book is closed. There is nothing more to do. The wagon is parked. The horses are stalled. The fire is out. The country is dark. The Bundrens are home. The night is wide. The breath is slow. The body is heavy. The world is held. Just rest now, just rest. The story is here. The night is here. You are here. Good night.